Nebraska's 2025 spring practice has officially completed, and over the past couple weeks, we've seen a bunch of Huskers either make a name for themselves or fall off the face of the earth. So in today's video, I'm going to go over the 5 biggest risers and fallers from Nebraska spring practice, the guys who really shine the most, or the guys who didn't shine at all and really have a lot to prove going into the fall. So really quick, loaded spring practice update. Hit that like button if you're fired up. And really quick, if you support the channel, it takes 2 seconds. It really helps me out. Please hit that subscribe button for daily Husker football content, recruiting updates, and so much more. Once again, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get into it. Going over the 5 biggest risers and fallers from Nebraska football spring practice 2025. And I want to get things started with the 5th biggest riser. So the way we'll go about this is we'll go 5th biggest riser, 5th biggest faller, and so on. So let's go to the 5th biggest riser for Nebraska. This is none other than Justin Evans, starting center for the Big Red. Now, the reason why he's the 5th biggest riser is because there was a lot of uncertainty going into this offensive line starting off of spring practice. And the big question was, who's going to be the center? People were throwing out Sam Sledge, even Turner Corcoran. People were saying maybe Rocco Spindler was going to get kicked into center. And I've told you guys since the beginning of spring practice, I expected it to be Justin Evans, and that turned out to be true. Not only did Justin Evans lock up the starting center spot, he might just be the best offensive lineman on this entire team. He looks the part. I mean, his body's the best it's been so far. We've talked about this his entire career. The pass pro has been phenomenal for Justin Evans Jacobs throughout his career. He's played since he was a second-year player, but it's always been the running game that's really been a struggle for him. That has not been the case throughout spring practice. Again, he's become very physical in the running game, been eating up those nose tackles inside. He's been dominating throughout practice. So Justin Evans is a leader on this offensive line now. He's really become one of those guys who's going to be a captain, going to be a potential NFL draft pick next year. He's going to be an anchor of this offensive line taken after Ben Scott from last season. So Justin Evans, I just really feel better about this offensive line because we locked up this center position. But he's a guy that the coaching staff loves. He took a big step from the beginning of spring practice to the end of spring practice, and we could feel confident penciling him down as our starting center. Not only as our starting center, but arguably one of the best players on this entire team. He's going to try to get paid this year, and he's trying to go to the NFL. So really feel good about where we stand with Justin Evans. He had a great spring practice. He is my first big riser for the Big Red. Now let's get to the 5th biggest faller for the Huskers, and this is a guy who didn't actually play in spring practice, and that's the big problem. This is Turner Corcoran. And honestly, I'm going to put 2 players in this category at number 5. I'm also going to throw Mr. Teddy Prohaska in here. Listen, these are guys going in their last year of eligibility. Both of those guys were highly touted recruits coming out of Kansas and Nebraska, respectively, and both of them are on the outside looking in of this starting lineup. None of those guys are projected to start, whether it's Turner Corcoran or Teddy Prohaska. Okay? Their careers, they really have a couple months to define their careers. Are you going to sit on the bench for the rest of your career? Or are you going to make a move, get back at right tackle, get back at left tackle, see if you can provide meaningful snaps for Nebraska and potentially get an opportunity at the next level? Okay. And it's really sad because we're at the point with Turner Corcoran specifically where he's in bust category. Okay, because people forget that he was a borderline 5-star recruit in the class of 2020, or was it either 2019, right? So he's been around the block a couple times for Nebraska. He was a very highly touted recruit, and we're at the point where he just has never lived up to those expectations. We moved him to left tackle, right tackle. We moved him inside the guard. He's just never played well, and he's been injured his entire career. He needs to make a move this summer. He's got to get healthy, and he's got to push the needle, and hopefully he can get in that mix to start. But if not, hopefully he can provide some good depth. But I'm just really worried about his career because, again, he might go down as one of the bigger busts we've seen in Nebraska football history in the past 10, 20 years because of how good of a recruit he was. Just hasn't lived up to those expectations along with Teddy Prohaska. So both those guys are my fallers just because they didn't play throughout spring practice. And that's a big problem. One of the biggest things in football, you got to be reliable. You got to be available. And those guys have not been available throughout their careers. I want to keep with the fallers. Let's just go to faller number 4. Faller number 4 for the Huskers. This is Caleb Benning, second-year player coming out of Omaha West Side. I thought the scrimmage that we saw on Saturday really told you a lot. It told you how the coaching staff feels about a lot of players. If a player played in that game, it means that they're not on the 2 deep. It means they're really not on the 3 deep. And all the players that played, the most surprising was Caleb Benning. Caleb Benning was pretty much the only defensive back with value that played in that ball game, besides maybe a Kamir Prescott. that tells you to me that Caleb Benning is not on the 3 deep for Nebraska. He's not in the mix for playing time. And that's a little bit shocking because he actually played for Nebraska last year. Again, he did redshirt, but he played in 4 games. And the coaching staff liked what they saw from him. So clear to me that Caleb Benning did not have the greatest spring practice. I don't know all the details, but when I watched him on Saturday, I wasn't incredibly impressed. I came away a lot more impressed with guys like Kamir Prescott. Kamir Prescott had a great practice. I thought Braylon Prude played very well. I just wasn't impressed by Caleb Benning, and it tells me a lot. Don't take my word for it. Take the coaching staff word. The fact that he even played in that game when a bunch of other prospects like Larry Tarver, like Donovan Jones, like Jeremiah Charles, they didn't play in that game, but Caleb Benning did, tells you everything you need to know about the way they feel about him. So again, hopefully Caleb can turn his career around. I mean, obviously, he's still a second-year player. We're not freaking out. He's a very talented guy, of course, son of Nebraska legend Damon Benning. So hopefully he can turn his career around. He's a great guy. Great guy. Hoping he can do just that, but he gets my 4th faller spot for the Big Red. Let's go back to the risers. 4th riser, keeping it with the secondary, Amari Sanders, man. What more needs to be said about this guy? Arguably the MVP on defense out of all of Nebraska players in spring practice. He of 2 players to start alongside to your right at corner, it's him and it's Andrew Marshall. I really, really doubt it's anybody besides those 2. Again, your starting secondary looks as this. It's going to be Sear Wright. It's going to be Malcolm Hartzog in the slot, and your 2 safeties is going to be Sean Singleton, and they're going to be Marquez Buford. And then your starting corner alongside Sear, it's either going to be Andrew Marshall and Amari Sanders, and they love Amari Sanders. Again, incredibly quick. He put on a bunch of good weight. He's about to, I think 185, maybe even 190. He looks jacked. Again, he's super tall, super long arms, man. Amari Sanders had a great practice, a great spring practice, incredibly physical guy. So really, really like him, and the staff really feels good about his future. So he gets my 4th riser spot. Let's go to the 3rd faller for the Huskers. This is Jalen George. Very similar to Turner Corcoran and Terry Prohaska. You got to be available. You got to play. And Jalen George was somebody who had a phenomenal winter conditioning, and the coaching staff really liked what they saw from him. They liked his leadership abilities. They liked his raw instincts. They loved his athleticism. He's one of the speedier defensive linemen on this team, and unfortunately, he got banged up at the end of winter conditioning. He did not play a single snap throughout spring ball, and now we're at the point where there were talks about him potentially starting going into this year. Now the talks are, can he even crack the 2 deep? Okay, so unfortunately, the reason why he's the 3rd biggest faller, when you don't play, that hurts your stock more than anything. So we'll see what happens with Jalen George. Again, no pressure or anything, but he only has 2 years of eligibility left, right? It's pretty much now or never. He got to play this year. Transfer coming in from the FCS ranks. They really like his game. You got to have a good summer. You got to rehab quickly and get ready to go for fall ball and try to make up for lost time. Going to the 3rd riser, Willis McGahee, man. Really, really good spring ball for him. Once again, this is a guy I'm just so high on. One of the fastest players on this defense. Coming in, his dad, legendary Miami Hurricane running back, so he has that burst. He has that juice. But again, he put on a bunch of good weight. Again, he looked pretty skinny last year. He looks really, really good right now. About up to about 245, I'd say, against 6'1". So he can play that 3 technique spot. They're not going to put him there. They're going to put him at jack, which is his true position. But he's going to rush the passer at an even more elite level. He led the team in forced fumbles last year. People always forget that. He's one of the best true pass rushers on this team. So Willis McGahee, I'm excited to see how they utilize him in this John Butler defense. He's going to play a lot of the snaps, and you're going to see him on a lot of 3rd downs getting to the quarterback. Great spring practice. They really feel good about him and Deshaun McCall. That's going to be a little lethal duo at that jack spot. Now going on to the 2nd biggest faller, in my opinion, throughout Nebraska spring practice. This is Bly Hill. Now, Bly Hill did not play in the scrimmage on Saturday, so clearly he's still on this 3 deep. But Bly Hill's somebody who I just constantly forget about, and I constantly just never hear anything about Bly Hill. I'll get a text sometimes from people, that I know inside the building that'll say, okay, Larry Tarver had a really good practice. Or Mari Sanders is somebody, again, who was constantly hearing good things about. Andrew Marshall is somebody that we're hearing constantly good things about. I never heard anything about Bly Hill. And the coaching staff, when they were meeting with the media, they never talked about Bly Hill. Bly Hill went from potentially being our starting corner at this time last year to not even cracking the 2 deep, not even being in the mix. So I just don't know what the future is for Bly Hill, right? He's 6'4". He's the tallest corner on this team, but he's not incredibly fast. He's not incredibly twitchy. You don't feel very confident about him at boundary corner. I wouldn't mind if he played the slot. We'll see on that. He's not incredibly physical enough to play a safety, so I just don't know where his role is on the team. It's a big year for him, though, because once again, if he does not get on this too deep, I could see a reality where he transfers going in December. So we'll see what happens with Bly Hill. But again, there's been a lot of competition in this DB room. A lot of guys have grown their stock like Amari Sanders. A lot of guys have really plummeted, and I think Bly Hill's one of those guys that really went down. So we will see about Bly Hill. All right, going into my second biggest riser for the Big Red, Williams Nwaneri. Oh my goodness. This is somebody who I had my questions about. You guys know this. I had my questions about Williams Nwaneri. Again, I've never had any questions about what he does on the field and his upside and his potential. I've always been worried about him off the field. Can he dial in? Can he eat right? Can he go to the gym every single day, lock in and gain weight? Okay. Can he be a good teammate? Can he show up on time every single day from Monday to Friday? If he does all that, he's going to be a great player on Saturdays. And it seems from all accounts that he's done absolutely that. His body's the best it's ever been, right? I believe they said he's up to about 280 at this point in time. I saw him on Saturday. He looks huge. Okay. He's arguably the best pass rusher on this defensive line period right now. Okay, he was getting to the quarterback constantly throughout spring practice. Now, is he in the mix to start? I don't think so, because I think they feel really good about the starting three, which is Cameron Ledhart, Riley Van Poppel, Keona Davis, and Elijah Judy. Again, three of those four likely going to be your starters. But again, I still feel like Williams Nwaneri, he really rose his stock, and he gained a lot of confidence in my book. I feel a lot better about him than I did a couple months ago. So Williams Nwaneri, feel great about his future with Nebraska and whatever role that is. All right, let's go to the biggest faller and the biggest riser throughout spring practice. The biggest faller is not Tristan Ovano. I just have Tristan Ovano out there. It's the special teams in general. The special teams in general, I believe, is the biggest faller. And this is from what I saw on Saturday. I was really disappointed with what I saw on Saturday. Okay, obviously, Nico Ottamanelli was not good. Was not good. You'd expect him to be good going into his second year. He bricked a 30-yard field goal, wasn't even close, shanked it. He had a PAT that was blocked. So Nico Ottamanelli, if he's ever in the game kicking, we're in a bad spot. Tristan Ovano went 3 for 5 kicking field goals, shanked 2 50-yard balls, hit a 30-yarder, hit a 40-yarder, hit a 150-yarder, but then again, missed the other 250s. So Tristan Ovano, again, he had his moments, but he's not consistent. That's the problem with him. And then obviously the punters, Camden Cook did not look very good, and we didn't even see Jack McAllister because he's entering the portal. So there's just a lot of questions at special teams. We didn't see any returners, and I feel good about the returners. We need to figure out kicker, man. And we didn't see John Hull. I think they were protecting John Hull, but I don't even feel good about John Hull either. I want to bring in another kicker. I really do. Like, why not? Of all positions that we need competition now, I truly believe it's kicker and punter. Let's bring in more bodies there. Just haven't been too impressed with those positions. And for my, I'm going to give them the biggest faller because I'm going to be harsh on them because special teams lost a lot of football games over the past couple of years. We need them to be pretty much borderline perfect. And from what I saw and what we've heard, they've not been perfect. They've been very, very short from perfect. So biggest faller goes to the entire special teams unit, at least kicking the football and punting the football. And then the biggest riser, I'm going to give it to Ja'Cory Barney. I'm going to give it to Ja'Cory Barney, man. Watching this guy, watching this guy at the scrimmage, he won the fastest man competition. Hearing all the nuggets that we heard, that his catch radius has improved, he's gained a bunch of weight, he's more physical than he's ever been. They're utilizing him all over the field. This Dana Holgorsen offense is going to bring out the best in him. Ja'Cory Barney will be, I believe, in the mix to be an All-American wide receiver this year. You've heard of Ryan Williams. You've heard of Jeremiah Smith. Step aside. Now you've heard of Ja'Cory Barney because that boy might just be the best of the bunch. Seriously. That's how high I'm in Ja'Cory Barney. This dude's a future first-round NFL draft pick. This dude is a future Nebraska Cornhusker first-round NFL draft pick. Buy your stock. Because we saw it last year in person how good he was. This is where he was last year. This is where he is now. I cannot wait to see this brother play on Saturdays this year because he's going to take a huge jump. And he's going to be in the mix to win a lot of awards. And he just might be the best player on this entire team. Literally. He was arguably the best player on our team entire last year. He might be the best player on our entire team once again this year. So Ja'Cory Barney gets my biggest riser. All right, guys, that's me being brutally honest. My 5 biggest risers and fallers. Again, I know I'm going to get comments about this. Wilson, you shouldn't say if a player's being a faller, that's mean. They're trying their best, and I agree with you, right? Like, it isn't great, but this is the reality of the sport nowadays. You've got to make tough cuts. The 105's coming sooner rather than later. These guys are getting paid now. These guys are practically professional athletes. So if they aren't playing up to snuff, we just got to talk about it. We got to talk about it. I'm not dogging on the guys. I'm not rooting against them. I'm rooting all those guys for I want them to succeed. But if they're not playing well, there's no taboo over it. We just got to talk about it and have an honest conversation. Let me know your thoughts down below. The 5 biggest fallers and risers for Nebraska throughout spring practice. Let me know in the comment section. Hey, if you made this far in the video, please hit that like button and subscribe. As always, folks, go be right. Go Met Rhule, and I'll see you in the next one.